Welcome to the AI Security Update, where we discuss the latest in AI and security. Today, I'm so excited to have Emma Fang on our show. Welcome to the show, Emma.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here as a guest for the AI Security Update podcast.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah. So I am currently a senior security architect at EPAM, and I have been spending the past 6 years working as an architect and absolutely love the job. At the client project, I'm still very hands-on on various topics such as cloud security and application security, and increasingly a lot of the AI and agentic AI security topics now. Also, part of my job, I'm leading our security practice regionally across the UKI, Switzerland, and Germany regions. So basically, I grow and lead a team of security architects and engineers in different specialisms. So outside of my job, I speak at a lot of different security conferences frequently on various of different topics like technical cloud security and also strategic topic. Actually, in about 2 weeks' time, I will be speaking at DEF CON 34. I will be speaking at the AI Village and AppSec Villages. I'm also the vice president of Women in Cybersecurity versus UKNI affiliate. I spend a lot of time mentoring and contributing to the community because I think that the younger generation needs more role models and inspirations into cyber and understand what it's like to work in the cybersecurity space. So that's me.
Yeah, that's such a great background. So, Emma, you're based in London in the UK, and you're a leader in women in cybersecurity. And I was involved with that organization as well. And I think it's such a great organization to encourage women to pursue cybersecurity careers and also to retain women in cybersecurity careers. And we'll definitely talk about your DEF CON talks later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. Now, Emma, you know that AI security is something everyone's talking about. I feel like every day there's a new development, a new article or buzzword that people are talking about. Based on what's happened in the last week, what's a current event that you think our audience should know about?
It's the OpenAI and Hugging Face instance. So what happened was that the OpenAI was internally testing an advanced models, and they want to test the offensive side of that, the cyber capabilities. It's a little bit like the Mythos situation where they are trying to test a advanced model, and it was initially inside of what was supposed to be an isolated test environment. So the agents running in that test environment broke out of that environment and reached the open internet, and essentially it has been escaped from that environment. So at the same time, it was looking for a target to demonstrate the capability to attack, and they found the Hugging Face. Of course, there is a vulnerability in the Hugging Face that the agent is able to exploit the dataset processing pipeline and use it as an entry point. It was able to ingest a malicious dataset, which abused two separate code execution paths in the pipeline, which has been resulted in the code running on a processing worker. So as a result of that, the same agent that has been escaped further escalated inside the Hugging Face network, which allows it to harvest credentials, to move to the internal systems, and to compromise much more over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's at the top of mind for people because it was very surprising that OpenAI broke out of the test environment. And I know a lot of businesses and companies are talking about using AI in their environments and in their products. So that's definitely something people should be monitoring. What is some of the lessons learned based on this incident?
A lot of companies nowadays, they are trying to get into the trend of building the Gen AI or AI systems within their own environment. So they have to be really careful about the boundary issues. they might exist in the design document and they might be perfectly designed, but in practice, it's not really easy to isolate environment. It has to be enforced at the network level, have to be enforced at the logical level. Second of all is that the access vectors. So a lot of companies are using zero trust principles as a model and controls to safeguard their access to their environments, to continuously verify and to detect something like that. But in the world of AI, the access needs to be changed as well in the sense that you won't just authenticate a person. Sometimes you're authenticating an agent. And agents are autonomous and non-deterministic. So how are you going to use the same conditional access policy on the agent? So that needs to be changed as well. And then thirdly, what I learned from this is the actual mechanics of compromise, like such as the credential harvesting, lateral movements are fairly conventional, which means that the agentic layer didn't even replace any fundamentals. It didn't replace any methods that, the pre-AI attackers would be doing the same thing, use the same techniques to get things, get into to do lateral movement and to get into a system faster and more, and better than what human can do.
Yeah, basically the AI agent can carry out the attacks much faster than a person manually could do. And lateral movement, for those who are not in the cybersecurity space, it just means once you gain access to a system in the network, people can move across different devices in the network. So think about your house. You have different smart devices in your house. I feel like every device is now a smart device. But let's say someone is able to hack into one smart TV, then they could use that to then move across the network and access other things on the network. And that's definitely a common attack technique, one of the very common techniques that are used by adversaries. So just to clarify for those not in the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, I also want to add a point here is that there's something that I read on the Hacking Face article is that they didn't catch this through manual, the traditional threat intelligence, threat detections process, or the SIEM process. They're actually using the anomaly detection pipeline, which is based in the LLM based triage. So basically, it was able to analyze tons of security telemetry um, to identify the real signal from the noises. And this what they also claim that this allows them to be able to detect this instance in hours rather than days. So I think this also is another lesson learned in terms of we need to we need to be able to match the speed of the adversarial's speed at this at the
Yeah, a great point there. So Emma, let's just expand on that a little bit more because I know I've had other people on the show saying that it's really hard to defend against an AI agent because AI agents, they're running continuously. And obviously as people, we have to take breaks. We go on holiday. We have weekends. But a famous line for incident response is that criminals typically strike during the holidays or during the weekend. So we definitely need to stay defensive when we are implementing AI, but we can no longer rely on manual fixes that could take months, maybe even years. Any other advice on that? Because I know companies are struggling to, for example, add patches to systems.
So if your attacker, if your adversarial is agentic AI or agent, then how are you going to keep up with their speed, right? Um, so there's a thing that where you have to ensure that you are able to run on the infrastructure that you are able to control before an instance happens. So you need to be able to get out. You need to be able to avoid getting locked out by the guardrails of your AI systems and able to keep the attacker to separate from the data and the credentials. So basically, is to safeguard that data so that even someone or agent is able to get into your system, they wouldn't be able to compromise even further. I think containment could be something that a company could be looking to how to enhance your containment when an instance happens, preventing it to damage further. If everybody say that, we cannot keep up with the speed, yeah, then how are we going to defend that? Another aspect that I would like to talk about is the automatic detection and correlation. In order to keep up with that, we also need the AI autonomous system to be able to help us to distinguish between the real signals and the noises. So that's one of the way that you can help to keep up with that speed is to use AI against AI. So that's probably already a lot of company already been doing. Yes, and building automation and to automate the response rather than just alerting. And also the last one is to test and to always test. I think this is true for everything, not just AI security, where you need to have some red teaming practice that you are able to simulate an agentic adversarial situation, and you can have your attackers, sorry, you can have your pen testers working on it, and to actually testing against the threat model in this kind of that could mimic some real instance that was caused by the OpenAI. So that's another thing that I would like to suggest to a lot of company if they are going into to become more agentic in their environment.
Yeah, great advice there. And just as a disclaimer is that every company is different and every use case is different. So just as with every episode in this show, it's just we're expressing personal opinions. It does not reflect any organization opinion. But great advice there, Emma. I think now, Emma, we talked about companies and advice for companies, but what's some of your advice for the people? I know a lot of people want to get into AI security. Everyone I talk to, they want to get into an AI security job. But what's some of your advice based on being a hiring manager for some of these roles? Any tips or recommendations you have for people that do want to pursue AI security as a career?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So at the beginning, I have mentioned that I do lead and grow a team. One of the trends because I'm a consultant, so one of the trends that I have observed recently is that a lot of clients were asking for AI security for professional who has over 5 years of experience, something like that. Yeah, so I would like to talk a little bit about this because there's a mindset that everybody have is that we need someone with deep AI security experience, but it actually doesn't exist. Yeah, because I don't know, AI security, I mean AI, the agentic AI, LM, everything like that. I don't know how long they have been popular for. They have been around for a long time, but when it actually become a topic, become something real, is actually probably 2 to 3 years ago, from when the chat GTP becomes popular. So this kind of ask is unreasonable. That's my opinion. However, if you look at it, so the demand is high. I mean, we have a lot of companies are looking for this type of professionals. However, the supply is not that much. This is a space you shouldn't wait until you've got 5 years of experience before you can qualify. if you have a solid background in cloud security, application security, identity, you can easily extend that skill set into AI security because AI security is everything, right? It's all about the environment, all about safeguarding your application, safeguarding your authentication and authorization. Yeah, it's a lot like that. Even in the job description that I've seen in most of the AI security jobs, it's all about identities, all about cloud security and application security. So I think rather than focus on how do I become an AI security professional, I would say how do I extend your existing skill set into agentic AI systems.
Yeah, that's great advice for people looking to pivot into AI security and they're coming from a cybersecurity background. I did look into AI security before it became popular, but I will say 5 years ago, when we were talking about AI security, it was still considered very niche. A lot of people weren't even looking at it in terms of company skill set. It was like you would have to have a PhD focused on AI security, and then only the companies looking for R&D staff members would be interested in AI security employees. And now definitely that is changing because this technology has become more mainstream. So I think that's the challenge, is that we do have qualified people, they go to universities, they study these technologies in depth, but then it's hard for them to also market themselves. So I think whether you're pivoting or whether you're coming from a PhD background, the key thing is marketing yourself for these different roles and talking about the skills that you bring to the company and to the organization.
Yeah. I, and also, I have something that I would like to add. As a hiring manager and interviewer, I always ask this question: what do you think about the current space of AI? Let's talk about the AI topic. And I even asked this question about what do you think about mythos? It's actually I don't need them to tell me about the mythos, right? It's more about I want to know about what they are thinking and logical thinking about AI security and how they're gonna work towards that and what have they been working on outside of their day job. Have they, do they have a real interest in actually upskilling themselves? Because for this kind of questions, you can easily find out whether a person is actually able to upskill in the space of AI. You know, examples could be someone could be setting up a lab on the side of the job and try to build up some agentic AI system, or even creating a talk that have a deep research into the topic, something like that. That would be really good example that you can showcase during your interview. Yeah, so that's something that I like to say it about. And also, when you talk about AI security is a broad topic. So maybe you can narrow it down into maybe model security, looking at the security of the LLM model and agentic model, something like that. Even the large language model, app security, agentic system security, or supply chain security, they are all relevant to AI security, but they are very different skill sets as well.
Whenever, for example, you study something in depth, like let's say you have a thesis, then you focus specifically on one topic in security or in AI security. Basically, my advice as well is that not only should you do these side projects, but you should also post about it. Have a blog or post about what you've learned or what you're doing, because that also helps companies find you. And I think I've had that conversation with a lot of my mentees, but people are scared to post and to share their knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Emma, do you have any other tips for our audience in terms of resume recommendations or any other interview tips?
Get get familiarized with all the frameworks about AI security and to familiarize with your regional framework as well. For example, in the UK and the AI Act. So that's something that someone like some professional in the area would like to familiarize themselves with. Another thing is, I think if you are upskilling yourself in AI, sometimes hands-on doesn't mean that you need to code. You need to be really, really know how to do it hands-on to be able to, to practice your skills. There are tons of open source tools and vulnerable systems for red teaming exercise. So get on those red teaming exercise and to get to do some hacking on the prompt injection CTF style games. I would definitely highly recommending.
Yeah, great advice. I think when we think about AI security, oftentimes we think about Python and coding, but there are ways to also get the skill set from just lab exercises. I've talked about Gandalf from Lycara AI. That's a famous game where you basically use prompt injection techniques to try to get the chatbot to give you the password. And that's just one example of the many resources that are available to you. And my advice is to build up this skill set, post about it, and highlight that in your resume.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, Emma, for that advice. And I just want to highlight that Emma will be speaking at DEF CON in 2 villages, in the AI village and in the AppSec village. Emma, do you want to go over a little bit more about your talks?
Yeah, of course. I'm very happy to. So yeah, I will be speaking at the 2 villages. So at the AI village, me and my partner will be talking about how the zero trust principle could actually failed when you are putting it up against a real agentic AI environment. Zero trust controls needs to be changed when we are actually safeguarding agent instead of a human, and what is the differences between that. And then the second one is the AppSec village. So me and my partner are going to speak about how the Shadow API would allow an attacker to compromise your cloud native apps. So in this talk, we will talk about the step-by-step kill chain of how to discover a shadow API and then how to exploit it and to compromise it. And we also provide a demo of this as well. So for this talk, we will focus on the key message is the visibility issue of API. So yeah, it's really exciting to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely check out Emma's talks at DEF CON. And just to link to some of our podcast episodes in the past, we have talked about Shadow API in our episode with Yassine from Escape. So if you're interested in AI and API security and how they relate to each other, definitely also check out that episode. So thank you so much, Emma, for being on the show. We'll be back next time with more great conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.